I'm Alexis. I'm a junior at Easton Area High School here in Easton, Pennsylvania. Honestly, I have the next 10 years of my life planned out. I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna graduate, I'm gonna start my career. By the age of 25, I want to have my career started and grounded, and from there I want to probably find a husband and then settle down and have kids with the career that I pick in college. So without going to college, there is no career, there is no husband, there is no kids. That's how I've planned it since probably the age of 12.
So my name is Ray Kun Sun. I am from Luoyang, mainland China. Yeah, so when I first come here, I definitely felt culture shock. So like everything is different. But firstly, I think the most shocking thing is that the language, because you have to use English like every day to communicate with your peers, with your professors, and that part I find is the most hard one.
I'm originally from Chicago, but I decided to come out east for college just because I wanted something different than the Midwest. Most of my cousins and other siblings were they either dropped out of high school or gangbanging or doing things that weren't very they weren't setting themselves up to have a brighter future. So for me to actually go to college and complete it within 4 years is not only a big deal to me, but a big deal to everyone else around me. Everyone's gonna look at it and be oh, Chris is actually trying to do something. Maybe I should try to do something.
There was no one talking about college all the way growing up. There was no one really in my immediate family, my aunts, my uncles, my dad is a family of 14. And it wasn't about going to college. It was about what are you gonna do for your job? What's your job when you grow up, right? But there was no recognition that you might need to go to college in order to do that job, because the jobs that they talked about or thought about weren't really even, a college degree necessary. It's all about where you grew up and what was talked about in the home. And when you went to college, did you feel like you belonged, or did you feel like you were a fish out of water?
None of my grandparents went to college. My dad started college but didn't finish. My mom went to trade school. Aunts and uncles wise, I think they all tried it and it didn't work out. My one aunt went back to school. I think that's about it. Cousins wise, older cousins, again, they all tried, failed, just really isn't looking good for me when you think about my family wise.
Before me, my mom went, but she didn't go consistently. She would go for a semester, mainly at community college, and then take a semester off, and got to a point where it was just so on and off that she never finished. And my uncle tended to do more online schooling, so he got his bachelor's online just a few years ago. But I'm the first to actually go off to college.
For me, I don't think it's going to be hard for me. It's going to be more of a work ethic thing. I'm going to have to get in and actually put my best foot forward and work hard. My dad, him not finishing college is one of the biggest regrets he has. And as parents, they want their kids to do better. So they encourage me, my family. I'm also considered probably big cousin, big sister in my family. So if I don't go to college and all my little cousins are looking up at me, it's what? Alexis didn't go to college, I don't have to go to. But everybody wants me to do that. They want me to go to college, they want me to finish, they want me to be, I don't know. They want me to be that role model, I guess.
So my father is actually a military officer, so he literally cannot come to US because the secret policies and stuff. My mother was a sales manager in a medical company. She didn't get a college degree, but my father got a college degree in a military school. I went to ordinary high school, so that I'm the only one who goes to American college in my class. I need to go to college to gain more just to gain more knowledge and be a better man. That's like a common sense for most Chinese families.
Even though my dad went to a junior college, he was recruited out of high school to play basketball. And I always think that my dad went to play basketball. He never went to play college, to get a degree. And in fact, his degree he never used. He ended up being a UPS driver for 25 years. But like I said, my grandparents, my grandma stopped school at 8th grade so that she could work and contribute to the family.
As a junior, I find it intimidating, I guess, because there's so much that goes into junior year for me. Definitely want to get into a good college, so all of that work and SAT, ACT, all the testing is terrible. I have like this giant stack of papers from school. It's actually a pretty nasty stack.
And then when I got to Miami, oh my gosh, like the idea of being away from home was a huge concept that I had, the most I'd ever been away from home was maybe like a 4-H camp for a couple of days. Or people who looked different than me, had way more money than me, who sort of had experienced the world different than me. I had never flown before. I'd certainly never been out of the country. And yet I'm in class with people who are from other countries or traveled to other countries. And so a lot of it is about understanding the environment of college as you go, right? It's like figuring it out as you go instead of having almost like have seen a movie in your family or have talked about what it would be like to be on a college campus, or even maybe you had been on a college campus because your parents had gone to their reunion weekend or they'd gone back to their alma mater. What the hell's an alma mater, right? Like they're all this language, like a bursar, the registrar, right? There's all of this stuff that if you don't know what that is, then it's like you were dropped on another planet.
Isn't this just, this is what everyone has to look forward to?
Certainly doesn't look like high school, right? So even though you've been a student and you understand how to study and you know how to go to class, there's so much more than just that about being in college that without the familiarity of having some exposure to that growing up, it can be so much more hard, so much more difficult than, I think college is hard for everyone because it's more independence, it's usually harder than high school, but I think for first-gen students, it's especially hard.
I got used to Lavie pretty much like 2 or 3 months later, where I just can talk to my peers like more fluently and can like listen to the classes like was no problem. But like to adjust to the culture is another thing. I feel like I cannot like get involved in the social life here. The Chinese students and American students, they have like different life cycles or friend cycles, so that they tend to be together with their own peers. So they kind of don't want to get out of their comfort zone to know like a new culture.
They're trying to figure out a new language. They're trying to fit in. For me in particular, I think I was trying to hide my background. I grew up on a farm. There was a whole lot of people at Miami who did, who grew up on a farm or in a rural setting like that. And so it was sort of, now in my life, I'm very proud of that. I sort of think that that's an awesome part of my life. And having had that experience makes me who I am today. It's a part of my story. But back then, those were probably chapters of my story that I wanted to keep closed.
Like in freshman and sophomore year, I go home like every winter break and summer break. In terms of like people seeing me, they definitely see me different because most of them does not go to American like colleges. They like talk to me, like they may ask me about like how is like American like and how is culture different with Chinese culture and those kind of stuff, but they definitely like see me a little bit differently.
Literally every day I find out something new. For instance, last week the SAT is being scored on 1600 again. It's not even at 2400. So I took the old SAT and it counts, but not really, because the whole score method is different So yeah, I find out a lot of the information on my own. I'm taking AP courses, so I have to look into like what scores different schools are gonna take, and it, yeah, I have to, like, I get help from family, but I also find out a lot of the information on my own.
I remember once being invited to something on campus that required people to dress up. Like I remember sort of that's what I remember the message being, which is you need to dress up. This is a fancy event. And I remember showing up in what I thought were fancy clothes and then having arrived and realizing I was the most underdressed person there. Right? So even this idea of like what is casual, what's business casual, what's formal attire, right? Like until you've been in a setting like that, it's not so clear. And then that's a really awful thing to sort of realize that you're in a setting with kind of the wrong clothes on. Like, what are you going to do? Where are you going, right? And so that, I think, is a strong metaphor for almost every college experience. So being in a small group setting or being in a residence hall or whatever, it's almost like being at a party with the wrong clothes on.